gone through it, we've all gone through it, it's a neat ceremony.
Yep.
Who's swearing you in?
I have no idea. They just said 10 a.m. on the
I think
31st.
it's just Joyce.
She did it for
Yeah.
us full time.
But you can bring, like Chris said, you can bring a family member or somebody to hold the Bible for you to
Yeah.
swear in on.
Do you have a family Bible?
No.
We brought our family Bible. And it's sworn in.
We have Bibles, but that, I don't have any, there's no old.
There you
I
go.
don't have-
You
I don't
start-
have a big historic one, but we just had
Yeah.
a Bible that when we started having kids, we bought a Bible.
I've got a Bible. that goes way back.
They didn't think they was gonna be that tall, so they had
Yeah,
something to
stop
sit on
throwing
while
it
they
so
were
you can throw
driving.
it back. All right, well, I guess we'll go back on the record.
Basically, I just want to talk about the salary thing. I think we need to kind of have an
Do we
idea
have
where
any
we're going
minutes
with
or
it.
reports or anything, Michelle?
Oh, we forgot to ask that a while ago.
Then you are certainly welcome to stay,
Okay,
but I think we're just gonna talk about budget,
okay.
so.
And we talked about it yesterday and said we didn't decide that until we get the final numbers for the end of the year, but I'd just soon go ahead and talk about it now. Get your input, Mark. You've been up here for 8 years with it. And, you know, Sam's gonna be the one voting on it, but
Yeah, but I,
let's get an idea where we're going with it. And what'd you have in the budget, Kristen?
2% COLA, and then there was a merit pool. To get the total for the pool, it was 1,000 per full-time position.
1,000 per FT. Okay.
So like the collector would have a pool of 3,000.
Okay, so elected officials could not take part in any kind of merit. They would just be getting the COLA, if you called it
I don't mind how we divvy it up. I don't care for the percent raises as much as I do a flat raise, because and I've said this before, $1,000 for somebody on a lower scale means as much or more than $1,000 to somebody on an upper scale. And if you give somebody on the upper scale, I understand their job entails a lot more, so a percentage raise should give them more on that, but I still don't like it that much.
The
So
only thing to
I'd-
keep in mind with the flat dollar amount is if you have somebody up here and somebody down here and give them a flat dollar, you're moving the scale.
You compress the,
So
compress the
if you
salary grade.
fixed your department and they're where they should be, a percentage moves them on the same level, whereas a flat dollar amount compresses the scale together.
But the flat dollar amount's being given on a merit raise is what I'm talking about. If we do a 1% COLA, or you recommended 2%, I'd just soon I like doing some of a COLA on there. That way everybody gets a little something. Cause thank you, ma'am. There's a ma'am. When was the last time you were called ma'am? Getting old, Chelsea.
you should always say that.
she's no married woman.
So if you do the merit that way, are you going to divide it evenly, or you're going to let the department decide?
I'll let the department do it however they want to. If they wanna give it all to one person, I guess they can, and if they wanna.
Yeah, that's where
I think there
I'll
should
disagree
be,
with you there.
I think there should be some cap as to what you can give to one person. I think.
because eventually those same people, the department head will change, the elected official will change, then they're gonna come back in here and say their structure is out of whack, even though the predecessor probably put it out of whack. It's
And I'm
us-
fine with that having a cap on it, saying if,
Yeah.
and we're just gonna use a magic number of 1,000. That's the most they can give one person. You're gonna have to change it to 1,500 or
No,
something.
I don't think that that's the most, but I think you
Otherwise
need to
you're giving
somehow
everybody
say they
1,000.
can't get over 3 or over 5, you know?
Total, maybe.
Yeah, total, so you need to somehow, or even if you said their total percentage increase can't go beyond a certain percent, or, I mean, I don't know how you want to word it, but I think somehow you need to put a cap on it. There are some positions that people want to fix, I mean, that they want to adjust to where it should be. I think they need to have the
So,
ability to do that. But
Just go a percentage COLA all the way across and then put a pool of money in there, and whoever wants to fix their position needs to bring us their recommendations on how to fix that position or those 6 positions or whatever. I don't want it to be that much of a headache. Because it could get real ugly and painful.
Well, it can, and that's the problem that I have, and I won't say that all elected officials do the wrong thing, but at times, and we've all seen this, where you get so much money in your salary line, and so we've seen people restructure their salaries, and maybe those raises were warranted, maybe they weren't, but they had the money in their budget to do that, and so they're not necessarily being prudent with taxpayer dollars. And so, you know, I've got a real problem with that, because we got people that aren't very qualified that are making a fairly decent salary. And so, you know, which is why I had talked to Kristen about the $1,000 flat raise, and maybe that does compress that a little bit, but it's a minimal amount. I mean, it's, you know, we got people making $50,000-$60,000, and we got people making $20,000. Well, you compress it a little bit, it doesn't amount to anything, really. I mean, it's such a small percentage. So,
How many employees we have?
Well, in general fund, we have 100.
Total.
Total, part-time, without part-time, full-time, about 225, I think.
We only have 225.
300.
300 and some,
Well,
yeah,
we
like
have
360.
385. Okay, we have 123 here. We have-
all departments.
Yeah, 42 here. We have 12 here, and we have 80 here. Right? And 40.
I mean, I thought it was like 320 people, or 350 people.
With part-time.
So eligible for the raise is going to be a lot smaller, is what you're saying.
So I'll give you my 2 cents on the input in general.
302, I'm sorry.
And I won't get into my politicizing about COLAs. Everybody's heard me talk about it. I'm totally opposed to COLAs. I think they give absolutely the wrong message. I think flat across the board raises for anybody, whether it's a COLA, you call it that, or whether it's $1,000 or $500 person, I think they're totally wrong, because all it means is as long as you keep your chair warm and you don't get fired, you get a pay raise, which I totally disagree with. Aside from saying that, here are my couple of comments. One of the reasons we've always waited until after we get the final budget numbers is because this is the single largest increase we ever look at in a year. To give you an idea, 2 ambulances, which we fret over periodically, doesn't even come close to what a salary adjustment is. And 2 ambulances are one time. Salary adjustments forever. We have been running a surplus in operating funds in our fund, general fund. We come very close to running a surplus, or we do run a surplus in the assessment fund. We have a pretty healthy surplus that we run in the EMS fund. All of those together, if you took just those 3 funds, general, assessment, and ambulance, or EMS, excuse me, you could do some pretty substantial payroll adjustments and really have very little to no impact on the bottom line, because we run such heavy surpluses in each one. The problem is we have 2 funds that have about 100 employees, give or take, that are not running big surpluses, and that's law enforcement and public works, road and bridge. And those funds will struggle to handle a substantive pay raise, because they're running, we had one good year with law enforcement, thank God. But if the sales tax goes back down, we lose that. Road and bridge is totally based on a property tax. And we have struggled to keep the contingency at a sufficient level that we have the ability to deal with emergencies when they occur in that fund, because it's restricted by the property tax collections. And we can't raise the tax. So, that's part of the problem. If we say it's $1,000 a person, just use that as a number, it's $300,000. We could take that out of EMS, no problem. General fund would have no problem covering that. Assessment fund would have no problem covering that. But you take $50,000 out of road and bridge, and you take $50,000 out of law enforcement, it starts changing the dynamics down the road. And a pay raise, we have a goofy constitutional provision. I don't know if any other state has it. I assume they do. That says you basically can't do bonuses. You can't pay anyone for work they've already done, which would be the ideal way of addressing these issues. Then I might agree with a cost of living increase. Give everybody a 1% cost of living increase and then bonus everybody who really did a great job in the last year. We're barred from doing that. So any adjustment we make is perpetual. It's forever. And that is why we've always struggled, and we've waited till we got the final fund balance so we knew where we ended the year at. Because if you go out, my experience has been up here, and Debbie, you're here longer than I have, so you can voice if you disagree. If we go out and announce 1%, and for some reason the fund balance is a disaster and we have to pull it back, no, we're going to do 1%. And if it bankrupts us, it's going to bankrupt us. Because once you go out and say, here's how much we're doing, that's the floor. You just changed your entire discussion. You hit the floor. If you say 2%, that's the floor. You can't go to 1%. You've said it's 2%. If you say it's $1,000, that's the floor. You can't go to $750. And that's the problem. That's why we have always waited till the end to have that discussion, because we don't want to get to that point. We don't want to say $1,000. Okay, that's $350,000 across the county. No problem. We can handle it. The final numbers come in and we go, oh boy. Well, guess we got to do it. That's why we always wait. And it's not because I don't want to participate in the discussion, because I'm participating in the discussion. It's because we have to wait to know what that final number is. It's a giant pain for these two ladies, and I know that, but it's the best and most responsible way to figure out how to do the single largest cost you have in the county budget.
And
That's my 2 cents. And by the way, I would advocate merit. Kristen and Jim and I spent some time last year talking about the whole concept of doing a merit pool and how we would structure it. I think there's some really great ideas that came out of that. The problem with the merit pool is how you administer it. And my suggestion would be the best way to administer the merit pool is have everybody submit a plan for how they want to do their merit raises in advance of the budget being approved. And then we can make a decision on how to appropriate in the budget. If they have a good, solid plan, pick on you, Larry. If you come up with a good, solid plan that shows I got 2 people that are rock stars, I want to give them this. I got 2 people that they do okay, I don't want to give them very much. And I got 2 people that I'm not giving anything to, and we look at it and say that makes sense. And you got your performance evaluations to back that up. And that's how why would we say anything? On the other hand, if you came back and say, everybody's rock star, everybody gets the maximum, I would suggest you don't give them anything, because everybody's not a rock star.
Well, and like Kristen had said yesterday, if we start in August next year for the next budget, it would help.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, we've gotten in the habit of even telling our own people, we don't want to talk about salaries, we don't want to do anything about salaries till 1/1, till we know. And then it's shoving it, and then the evaluations, and we didn't have a plan, so hopefully next year we start in August.
I think that's a great idea, and and in all honesty, I wish somebody had thought of that before. Which I blame myself for that,
Because they do, a lot of departments really want to give you something at budget time, but we say no, we'll talk about that when we know how much money we have, and then it's kind of too late.
Make a note of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we put it out when you're requesting, so.
I'm not saying we have to decide today and put it contingent upon the numbers, but I think to have the discussion now, have kind of where we want to go with it, and then see where the numbers are, and if they do support what we want to do, we can go that way.
To give you
Well,
an.
I think this year's gonna be fine.
Something else that, even if you wanted to wait on the across the board salary stuff, you need to decide if there's positions, FTEs, that you want to add anywhere.
I agree. That's something to discuss now.
I really think that needs to get done. Then Debbie can plug everything but a salary increase in, and we can make sure things are balanced. And once you get that cash number, if you want to decide this later, that's okay. We would love to have more time to push it out to people, but I do think you need to go through, and if you want to add people anywhere, you need to decide that now so we can get that plugged in.
All right, let's go down the line and do that, because
Okay.
Debbie, you got limited amount of time, so.
Let's start backwards in the book because it's easier. EMS wants to add a supervisor. Is that something?
I'm not going to be for adding any new positions. think we need to do what we can do with what we got and try to get some people some raises, and however we do that, that's just where we're at. So I'm not, so that's just where I'm at.
I think in looking at full-time additional positions, you have to take two things into account. One, financial status, and two, need. And it's sad that you have to do both, but you have to do both, your own choice. With EMS, financial status is not an issue. So it becomes a need-based analysis. And you just have to look and make a decision whether there's a need to have that additional position. In my opinion, I think it would make the service a better service. I think it would give them more flexibility, more adaptability, and be able to respond to issues. That being said, it's your all's decision. I would vote for it. But is it critical? If they don't have it, does the system stop working? No. So I just think it's a good
Ask you a
option.
question? I'm confused by this position. I've read it in the newspaper a couple times. To me, I'd be concerned if I was a citizen and we've got a guy driving around who's gonna decide whether an ambulance needs to come or not.
What?
That's what the article in the paper said this position was for, a supervisor.
If you actually rely on the newspaper for news?
I'm just telling you, that's what the article.
So
in
what the
paper
supervisor's job is predominantly is oversight of the crews that are on during the various times that they're on. And then when the time they make actual decisions is when there's an event and they have to respond to it. So if you get a house fire and they respond to it and there are multiple casualties, they're the ones who say, hey, we need 2 more ambulances. It's not working with one.
Gotcha.
They're the ones who are on site able to deal with those types of issues. They're not the one, they're not going to go, all right, I'm going to the site first, we'll see what it's like, maybe we'll decide to send somebody. We still roll our trucks as soon as you get a 911 call.
That was a question as a concerned citizen reading the article.
If you dial 911 and say you're having chest pains, you're getting an ambulance. If the supervisor come, that's great. You get the supervisor too, but you're getting an ambulance. You're probably also getting a fire truck and 2 cop cars, and because it's Larry Vincent, you probably get a media copter. I know.
Probably nobody showed up.
I do want to I will get this to you too, as far as what the 2% is costing you per fund, what the 1,000 per fund is costing you. You know, I mean, we'll just look at EMS since you were thinking about the FT there. You know, the 2% would cost you over $38,000 there alone, and $45,000 for the number of employees they have. So you go add another supervisor, you're talking about with benefits, probably 60 to 70,000. So that gives you perspective on the financial part of it, and that's an ongoing cost from now on.
It is. There's no question that. That fund runs, give or take, a $700,000 surplus per year.
Deficit.
Surplus.
Surplus.
EMS runs a huge surplus.
On the
The
sales
sales
tax
tax.
side.
But that's what it is. I mean, we can't use that for anything else.
Right.
So it runs a huge surplus per year.
No.
Even the operational side, when you include what we put in, runs a surplus. Because the contingency's been growing. But that's because of the amount we put in.
Right.
But we're all the same county employees, so I know.
I don't disagree with that.
I know.
But see, you're doing 2 issues. You're doing pay raise and you're doing FTE, and those are very different issues.
Well, I'm just talking
FTE,
about the money.
but FTE is a different discussion. FTE has to be a fund-based discussion because that's where they get paid out of.
Mhm.
I don't disagree with you that annual adjustments, for whatever you want to call it, COLA, merit, that has to be looked comprehensively. It has to be dealt out fairly. I don't disagree with that. But when you're actually looking at number of employees, that has to be a function in a department. You can't look at that countywide.
Okay. Just looking at total dollars.
I mean, I don't in general have a problem with adding a supervisor, but I don't see the reduction in staff. So I don't, there's no benefit. I mean, if he's mitigating some of these emergency calls, well, then we just got ambulances sitting and we got staff sitting. So, for me to say, yeah, let's put on another supervisor because we can reduce the number of calls that we're running. Well, that's not true. So So I have a real hard time seeing the benefit. And you know, if we really wanted to narrow it down, is maybe we don't have a supervisor running that QRV from 8 to 5. Maybe we look at running that QRV from the peak times of the calls. And so, you know, I don't think it's needed on a 24-hour shift. And even one supervisor only gets you 24 hours, 5 days a week. I mean, you're still, well, it's not even 24 hours, 5 days a week.
Well, I think
because-
they're going to extend it to the weekends and not have it in service during the slow time. So you'd have, say, 18 hours or 16 hours during the week, and then somebody there on the weekends. Can we put it in there? We control this one. Can we put it in there and then get with Mike and really talk to him? And I mean, we can.
I mean, he
only
can't
speak to the
hire.
fire to-
He also can't hire anybody until you guys approve it.
right. So we
Even if you put it in the budget, that's not a commitment to hiring the position. That's a commitment to there's at least money in there for it. Otherwise, then you get into this whole issue of mid-year adjustments and everything.
I didn't take real good notes on it. I just put, you know, he wanted to extend the QRV to 7 days. Wanted one full-time supervisor. You know, does it even have to be a supervisor that you have driving it around? I think it's more of a, just gets there quicker than more than anything. So maybe you take somebody out of the ambulance and they hit the QRV, and then if the ambulance is en route and they know that 2 miles down the road you don't need them, you say, okay, we don't need you.
I'm okay with putting it in there, but I mean, you know, if the QRV is dispatched the same time the ambulance is dispatched from the same facility, how much quicker is the QRV going to get there?
It's not.
Yeah.
I don't disagree.
So, anyway, so what's the point of sending two?
So my suggestion would be put it in, and then after the budget's approved next year, when you have time, have Mike come up and then walk through what your actual plans for it are.
Like I said,
And if it doesn't work,
Mhm.
I wouldn't do it. And if he's got a really good plan for it, then you know he may have a real idea on how to do this. It may work well. I don't know.
Mhm.
Mike has. I will say this. You know, I've worked with Mike now for what, 6 years?
2009.
6 years, I
It's
guess.
been 9, hasn't it?
Well, we started working with him.
5.
We started working with him before that.
Yeah.
So it's been probably 6 years we've worked with him. You know, he is a ambulance guy through and through, but I will say that he makes good decisions, and he never blindsides you with anything. He brings everything up here in advance. I cannot recall at any time throughout the course of the 5 years where something has appeared without him giving us lots of heads up on it.
Yeah.
And unlike some other people, we're like, what the heck is this? What do you mean you already did it? Never does that. Always way in advance.
So I'm good with putting it in, and then we'll have a discussion after
Okay.
another.
All
I
right,
think-
what's next?
The assessor's office, commercial appraiser and a field appraiser.
You guys asked me yesterday to go back to him and get the org chart and stuff. I had not had time to do that, so.
I'm going to struggle putting it in there until I see that, you know, he can justify why we're going to need one. I think I can see why he needs a commercial appraiser. Judy's gone. They don't have a commercial appraiser. But you're going to have to eliminate one of your other positions and make it a commercial appraiser.
And they did, I mean, this was the reassessment year, wasn't it?
Next year's reassessment.
Commercial appraising is a whole different.
Commercial appraisal is constant. Residential is the assessment year thing.
And our confusion lies because he changed one of his appraisers into a clerk this year. So, you know, that's where my confusion lies, is where is he?
You know, if he is adamant about adding these positions, I think you ought to. I mean, you need to get that email off to him saying, get us an organizational chart, because at this point, absent an organizational chart, job description, the traditional things we need, we're not inclined to add anything. And if he's serious about it, he should have some of that stuff already, but he should at least be able to get to you by the end of the year. That'll give you an opportunity to deal with it in the cycle. The money's there if you need to put it in.
From the assessment fund.
Yeah.
His is getting tighter, I will say that, just because we've added his software costs. and things
That'll
like
make
that,
it
but-
basically a balanced budget. Right now, we're running a little bit of a surplus in that fund. Adding those positions will basically make it
Adding two or adding?
one commercial appraiser will make it a balanced budget. Is that about right, Kristen? Because that's a higher paying position in commercial.
Yeah,
So
Putting
allowing,
both of them in will probably tip it upside down.
yeah.
allowing him to fill his clerk job and then adding one. Is that basically what we're talking about?
Now, he wants 2 appraisers. Now, this year, he had an appraiser.
But
He
he's-
turned it into a clerk. So he's asking for 2 more. A commercial one and.
Is he gonna eliminate his other clerk position that's open?
He doesn't have a book.
He doesn't have it open.
He's
has
got
a
a residential
residential
appraiser
appraiser
that's
open.
open, and he wants to add a field appraiser too, which we contract those services out right now to the tune of about 18 grand is all I think.
No,
Yeah, it's
about
not-
10.
I was
10.
gonna say it's not a large.
10.
And then he wants a commercial appraiser, which is going to be $40,000 to $50,000 salary alone.
I'm assuming, yeah.
So I'm not inclined to add anything at this point. I'm kind of along the same lines as Chris said. Let's try to take care of the people we got right now first. And I don't know if that's the right approach or not, but I kind of, at this point, is kind of my direction as well. So now who's next? Road and Bridge?
Road and Bridge, they just wanted to, make their maintenance workers equipment operators.
Within the
So-
budget
Within
line.
the budget line.
So they have the flexibility to move them up to that, basically get rid of all their maintenance workers. and
So-
call it-
Maintenance workers would come in as maintenance 1, and then after 6 months, they would go up to equipment operators, is I think the way they explained it.
I don't really understand why we're even having this discussion. I mean, isn't it at their discretion to just, wasn't in their org chart, they had all equipment operators, right?
Because we changed the salaries. Used to,
And
they
so-
were the same salary.
They're bringing them in at maintenance workers, but we have them in their budget as equipment operator ones, right?
That's what we're asking. We don't have them currently budgeted for that. We have them at what they're at currently. So if we go ahead and budget for them at the higher one, that's what they're wanting. We're only talking, $600 difference or something.
And I think it's only 3 people right now.
I think
The
they
other
just
2
need to
are already
wait.
there.
They need to wait till a maintenance or an equipment operator leaves, and then the maintenance operator can move up at that time. That'd be like saying, well, why don't we just make all of them supervisor positions? Because at some point, they're probably going to supervise something or somebody. Okay, it's a stretch, but you
Right.
know,
Yeah, it's
I
a
understand.
stretch.
I don't exaggerate very often. It's
What
huge
what they
deal.
had said is it was like a probationary period or whatever. They bring them in as a maintenance worker on probation, and they move them up after 6 months or whatever. So,
Which
I mean,
is
we're kind of.
Well, it's kind of a large jump for a probationary period. I think it's like, is it? I thought it was like $1,200 was the difference between the bottom
Because
and.
it was only 6 months.
It's going to
Yeah.
be 5%
So,
raise for them.
I think that's quite the large jump for a 6-month probationary period.
Well, what we suggested to him was bring him in as equipment operator, just don't pay him at that level, pay under that level. So, that's okay, guys.
What's the starting wage for a maintenance worker one? $18,000.
No, I think it's 23.
Kane
Is that the
I think
next
he's
one?
the newest, one of the newest.
23.7. A year.
I'm not going to be inclined to vote for it, so I'll leave that. Sam, what's your think, or Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, 23.4.
Because I think that would just eliminate the flow chart, too.
Well,
Well, are they saying they don't need a maintenance worker?
what their thought process was is that they bring them in kind of as a maintenance worker one, get them at the bottom of the grid, and then they start trying to get these people on equipment and running equipment, and so that they can do other things. I think the problem that we have countywide is that there is no room to move up. I mean, it's very limited. You know, people get here and they stay, they get their COLAs, they get their merits, and they, you know, they stick it out. And then in so many other departments that are small, like LVs or whatever, there's no room to go anywhere. You're stuck where you're at. Unless you get a raise, you ain't going anywhere. And so, and same way with Road and Bridge, Public Works, you know, it's just some people come in at higher salaries and some people don't, and that's just the way it is. But, you know, what's to make somebody want to work hard and there's no room to go anywhere? And so this other guy, he ain't doing anything, and we're making the same money. So,
Oh, yeah.
you know, so why don't I do what this guy does? And so instead of rewarding productivity, we deplete the air out of the balloon, and nobody does anything.
And farm.
Well, and I think
You and I would do that, but
that's
that's
a merit pool also. I mean, that's why you evaluate people and you decide who is making a contribution and who is not. That's why I think flat across the board dollar amounts, it tells them the same thing. That I can do the minimum amount and still get the same amount as her, even though she works really hard. That's why that merit needs to have the flexibility to reward her for her productivity and tell me, well, if you're going to sit there and do the minimum amount, you're going to get the minimum amount, which could be $5 or $10, you know? I mean, that's really what that merit is there for, is to reward her for her good work and hard work and coming in and doing what she's supposed to do, and tell me if you're not going to do it, then you don't get anything.
If you come in as maintenance one and you learn how to operate equipment that you did not know how to operate before, you're setting yourself up so when one of the operator one positions open up, or even an operator three, I mean, if you're out there even as a maintenance one, and this is what I would be doing, is you got to have some kind of skill, because that's what's going to separate you from anybody else. Anybody can push a broom, except for me. I'm not qualified to do that. I don't do any kind of cleaning. I'm terrible about it. But if you take a maintenance one person, their best thing to separate them from the other people is going to be to learn how to do these other skills. And then when a position opens up, they don't even have to go from maintenance one to equipment operator one. They could go right up to equipment operator three. You know, that's going to be the people that I would want working for us anyway. That's making themselves available for those positions when they fill. But making them all equipment operator ones, then next year they'll come back and say, well, we've got equipment operator ones. We want to, after about 6 months, they know they can drive a Bobcat, so we want to move them up equipment operator two. So that's going to keep going. I don't know.
I understand the merit. I think the merit's fine, but that doesn't fix the person that's not performing.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
So, you know, so you're saying, okay, well, you know, you're not performing, you're not doing your job, but yet we're going to keep you and you're going to still make that same salary. So, you know, and
I think that's definitely the supervisor or the person's job to say.
until we are willing to say, look, if you're not going to perform your job and do it well, then we're going to get rid of you, and we're going to find somebody that will perform. But that's in any private business too, that we have to expect more, and then we have to reward people that'll do more, and maybe that reward is that we can do more with less, which is LV, you know, great example. We can do more with 3 people and they all get a raise.
Right.
So, that's a great example, but
I
we have to be willing to eliminate some positions down here if they're not doing the work.
I definitely think that is the case. If you're not performing or doing what you're supposed to be doing, then after a certain amount of time, it's time to move on and find someone that will.
So I don't know.
The total is about $6,100 to put them in the budget as an equipment operator one instead of a maintenance worker one. So we're not talking a huge amount of money. You just need to decide if you want to hold them to the maintenance worker one salaries, or if you want to give them the flexibility to move them.
I thought we just fixed their flow chart and then we're going to change it again. I'm just
I'm-
saying,
I'm
I'm
with
no
you.
on it right now, so I'll leave it, I'm not probably gonna change my mind, so I'm saying no.
I'm
I'll
fine
leave
with
it
no,
to.
I just need an answer.
No, for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I struggle with that one because we hire people in, and I see some opportunities there. If we hire somebody in, that's a good quality worker, and we see potential there, and we don't have a position for them to move up to because we have so much retention and people staying in those positions that we don't, that person's going to go find a job somewhere else, and so we lose out on a quality employee. And so
I think in this circumstance, again, you have to realize that Road and Bridge is under you guys. So it would not hurt if you want to put it in, that they have to come to you before they make the move, if that's something you really want to think about. I mean, you do have a little more control here than you do in other departments, so if that's something you want to think about, that is a possibility to put it in and have them come to you before they would make the change. But it kind of sounds like Jeff is no.
It only takes two to say
I-
yes.
I don't wanna micromanage Larry's people. Yeah, in my business, it's, you start them out at a certain salary, and you see if they're really gonna be a good employee or not. If they're a good employee, I give them more responsibility, I give them more money. If they don't work out, and there's a lot of people right now who, on paper, they look really good, and they come in and they're not worth anything. And so you kind of phase them out. Yeah, well, I think I'm kind of like Jeff. I think start them out, and if it turns out these are diamonds, and yes, we want to keep them, then let's move them up. But you're going to have a percentage that you really don't want to keep,
Right.
and
And at some point, they're also going to have to be the ones that decide if they're not meeting those requirements. Do you get rid of them, or do you just keep them at a maintenance worker one salary? I mean, that's where you get into that. It's if they're not meeting your requirements to move up, what do you do with them at that point? Do you keep them as a maintenance worker?
I think that's their intentions.
So, I mean, I don't know if that's the solution either. If someone is not meeting,
well,
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
We can put it in there, since we control and do the same thing we just did with emergency services. I don't have a problem with that.
you got to realize though too, Sam, that I mean, we're talking about maintenance workers, so we're talking public works in general. But
Yeah.
I mean, Greg's staff too. I mean, maintenance workers, and I don't know the salaries are they're related or probably not. But anyway, we're talking about people $23,000, $11.50 an hour. I mean, I can't find anybody out there that I would want to come to work for me for $11.50 an hour. There's just no way. I wouldn't start anybody at that. So I mean, that's
I don't have any problem with. I really don't. Larry. Yeah, they run a really good department. So.
so.
$11.50 in the private industry versus $11.50 for the county is different, though.
I understand.
There's a different package there, but
You're right.
they don't have problem filling positions out there. They don't always get the best.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have your piece of coal. Wait, I guess a piece of coal would be worth some money now. But all right, next.
So-
What do we decide to do?
We're gonna
Sorry,
go to the-
shiny
We're
object.
gonna put it in the budget and then we'll decide later.
Okay, prosecuting attorney asks for another attorney. Just the background on this one, he did have a part-time attorney and things that he paid out of his other funds that he did away with. So,
And I will have to find out about the salary supplements, the memorandum of understanding. There are currently 2 employees that, 2 or 3, one child support too. So whether you guys want to entertain that memorandum with him again on that?
So what's the memorandum with child support?
Of one particular attorney receiving, I think, $250 a month from his fund on top of what the county gives.
So he's supplementing his fund, or their salary from
And then
his
he
fund.
pays for a part-time investigator.
Yes.
Sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Actually, both attorneys and child support receive it. Not the same amount.
So there's
We've
three
been talking
attorneys.
about him needing a position for
We,
6 years? since
we
I've been up
have,
here.
we have consistently told him, if you need an additional prosecuting attorney, we will pay for one out of general revenue. Hands down, we know we've looked at his numbers, they go up every year, there's no sign of them going down. And we've told him we would provide an additional position. The fight in the past has always been, he didn't want an additional position. He wanted to give big pay raises to people that were already there. And with basically no documentation, just, hey, I think employee ABC ought to get a $10,000 raise. I think this guy gal ought to get a $2,000 raise. And this guy ought to get a $5,000 raise. And we said, no, you said you have an increasing caseload. We're willing to provide the prosecuting attorney to deal with it. Paying a prosecutor more doesn't make him able to handle more cases.
And the salary supplements just in that department, 2 people and a total of 13,000 each.
Those have been going on since.
For 3 years now.
And so the problem therein lies is that we give him another position and he can still give them a raise through his slush fund, and we can't do anything about it.
He
So
signed a memorandum.
what we did in the past, Debbie, tell me what year this was, where we really went to the mattresses on it, and we said, you want to pay out your slush fund? No problem. We won't process them through our system.
You gotta write your own check. And do your,
And everything. You have to do the withholdings, you have to
Taxes.
do everything. We're not involved in it at all.
But didn't we get into a big problem with that, with
Yeah.
surf and loggers and everything
But it wasn't our
else?
problem. We told them that's not our problem. That's your problem.
It did get very messy.
It did.
And it got ugly.
And the state actually cut them off
But it wasn't our problem.
because we were filing under 2 different tax ID numbers. So. and
So the-
Financially, it
So
got
the
very
state
sticky.
wouldn't allow him to do it?
It was either the state or the feds. What was that letter we got that? I
I
can't
don't
remember.
remember.
That, no,
I was thinking it was state, I don't remember exactly, but
That wouldn't let them do that. Because the unemployment got messy too.
I guess I have a hard time, if he had a part-time attorney in there, that he got rid of that position, if he's that hard up for additional people. Why isn't the part-time attorney filled? I don't know. I don't know.
when did he get rid of that?
Last year,
Yeah, he never did.
In 14 or in 13? 13?
14.
Well, that was the one that he was paying for half of, right?
He was paying for all of it, part-time attorney.
So did that attorney quit and he just didn't fill it
Mhm.
back and now he's
Yeah.
asking for us to
Put a full-time.
put a full-time in there? Would we be able to, if he funded half of a full-timer, would we be able to fund the other half? Make, work some kind of deal there, because he was doing a part-timer.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in that memorandum, how it spells it out, so. I don't know if you want to spell out the benefits too, or just the full-time salary. If he pays half of everything, or,
I guess on the part-timer, he didn't have any benefits.
and I'd made him pay Social Security.
Well, in general, I don't like these MOUs. I don't think that, it just seems like we have to do them over and over and over again, and they don't ever work out like they're supposed to, but. I mean,
It's
Yeah,
the
we
Brer
can-
Rabbit, you know?
We can just fund a full-timer and, or don't fund one.
It's a lot cleaner to make that decision.
It is.
Well, we're gonna have one anyway, and unless you're not gonna do these salary supplements that he already has been giving. So. So,
I mean, I'm all for if he'll split a full-timer with us, we do that for now, and and see where it goes. I think he does need somebody. I've talked to other people that have had a hard time getting through up there and getting things done, and if their caseload is that much, then. But like you said, it's not gonna make.
How many
make 'em
how
handle
many
more
cases does a prosecutor handle?
He gave us statistics on it. I don't
Well, and I
recall
think
what
it
was.
varies depending on what type of case you're
You know,
handling.
if you're doing felonies, you're going to end up doing fewer cases than if you're doing little misdemeanors because you can
traffic
churn. You can
tickets or-
churn in a felony case. I mean, if you're doing I think Mark does the murder cases, but if you're doing an armed robbery or a rape case or something like that, those are very time intensive. So my guess is an average load for a felony attorney, which would be the top 1 or 2 people he would have, would probably be, I don't think you could do much more than 150 cases a year. Maybe 200 if you were just pounding on them really hard. Now what happens is if you got 300, you're just pushing stuff off.
Right.
And, you know, we do have that problem in the system is there are a lot of cases that get pushed off. Far more than ought to.
So, I mean, then the other question is, I mean, even if you add another prosecutor and he's doing 100 cases a year, can the courts get him in to try him?
You know, the courts can get them done. And, the cases are not continued because the judges say, I don't have time to try your case. Cases are continued because the attorneys come in and say, I'm not ready to try a case.
And both sides of that.
Yeah, both sides. The difference is the prosecuting attorney has the ability to dismiss and refile, which they play that game, which I think is just, it's all, I mean, can you imagine if you're charged with a crime you did not commit and you're ready to go to trial to prove your innocence, which you shouldn't have to, they have proof of guilt. You're ready to go to trial, and the day before trial, the prosecutor announces he's not ready, he's dismissing the charge, and he's gonna refile it. And it's another year and a half you're sitting there with this crime sitting over your head. And I just find that to be intolerable. But that's the game that's played with by prosecutors because they have the ability to do that. My preference would be if a prosecutor dismisses a case, it should be dismissed forever. You're a free man or woman. But that's not the way the law's written.
They should have a time period.
Well, they do. They have a time period.
Well,
They have
that's
statute
kind
of
of why they're-
limitations, but
yeah, that's
on a
why
major
they're
crime,
wrong.
the statute of limitations is really long.
Mm-hmm.
Justice delayed, what's the old adage? Justice delayed is justice denied. I don't have a position on whether he needs one or not. I'm just saying that historically, we have told him, if you need an additional prosecutor, we'll provide it.
I think from budgeting standpoint, it'd be best to have it in there and then we can always back it back out.
No, once they get it in there, it's theirs.
No, we haven't
Yeah.
approved the budget.
We haven't approved the budget yet. He's talking about for publication purposes.
Um,
Well, then
I mean.
then he's gonna say we pulled it out of there. We put it in and then we pulled
So?
it out.
We can pull everything out of there.
That's-
So,
That is a much easier issue to deal with than putting in a pay raise and cutting back on a pay raise.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
with putting those.
That's
with-
just a slot.
With putting the extreme, say, we add all these positions, putting that amount in there for you to work with, then we see what we got left. If we decide that our employees need it more than we need a full-time prosecutor, we yank it out, we know what that number is, we got it to work with, so.
So do you want to use the salary of the,
He had mentioned that.
I mean, I don't know, that's just a thought,
is that where?
I can see it both ways, we'll probably know what these costs are anyway,
Well,
but.
if it gives us more time to hash it out. I'm
I don't think
fine.
caseloads are gonna go down. I think they're gonna get busier and busier.
I agree. I think your idea is probably the best way to do it. Put it in now, have Mark come down here and explain caseload, case volume, where he wants to put the person, are they gonna do felonies, are they gonna do misdemeanors, that kind of thing, and have him just lay out his case, kinda like you're doing with,
Well, let's do that
Sure.
with all of them then and set that for a certain date where we come down and talk to each one of them. And we're not sitting here guessing if they need somebody or why they need somebody. We got them right here face to face.
I think there's value to doing that.
I would much rather do that with
You,
them face
you do
to
not
face.
have to approve the budget until January 31st.
And then I can
Now
tell
they
them
will
why.
freak out when I say that, but that's what the law says.
And every employee will freak out because they won't get paid.
But that's what the law
Yeah,
says.
they
Now the
won't.
reality is you probably need to approve it by the 20th of January. That's probably really the deadline.
Debbie wants it, what, the 12th?
Nah, we've done it that late.
It's on.
We've done it that late
It's
before. But
And I'll work through Christmas and
you know,
New Year's.
that
so
first
we
week
can
of
do it on
January,
12th.
just summon them up here to lay out their cases. And if they don't lay out, if they refuse to attend, you can take them out of the budget. And if they can't defend their case, you can take them out of the budget. Nobody's gonna, the public is not gonna complain if you reduce the budget. Because whoever it is couldn't explain why they needed more people.
I agree.
Good?
Yep.
Good?
Do it. All right, so
That
now,
it?
that being said, that's not gonna change anything as far as us being able to figure out the salary thing that we were talking about, so. We don't have to decide that today. I just wanted to talk something about it. You know, especially with you being up here for 8 years, you've been around some of it. I know.
I've been outvoted 2-1, maybe a dozen times in 8 years, and I think 6 or 7 up. No, I probably not voted 20 times in 8 years, and about almost half of those are salary issues.
We've had to compromise on that.
Salary and MAC. If you throw out the MAC dues and the salary adjustments, I think it's only been a 2-1 very few times.
So,
I can't believe you guys outvote me on the MAC thing every year. God.
Okay,
Think
so
about
put the attorney
spendthrifts.
in for now.
Huh?
Put the attorney in for now. Okay. Juvenile and their nurse.
Yeah, that's a tough issue to deal with. I don't know how you do that.
I think we gotta plug a number in there for that.
So his number was 20,000.
I think that's the wrong number.
20 hours.
No, 20,000. Where did I see an email that was 48,000? That was a doctor and nurse
Well, I think
supervisor.
through Advanced Correctional, which does the jail, it was 38.
Okay,
So that's.
I think that's the number we use.
Okay.
38 instead of 20.
But they had the doctor.
There's no way he's gonna get it done for 20,000 with a doctor supervising a nurse. He's talking about a different doctor that doesn't even work with this nurse.
So let me say this: if you're going to do $38,000,
Right.
I would seriously say if you're going to do that, talk to Christy and take the $38,000 and get a full-time nurse as
Put
an
it in
employee,
her
and do it a
salary.
half and half. Get a nurse who can do what they need out at juvenile, who the other 20 hours a week can do other stuff for the community. Because the cost, if you're going to wash the cost, I'd much rather wash the cost with extra services through the health department than wash the cost by paying for a consulting contract to some firm. That's my 2 cents.
I mean, I think it's a valid point, but the problem there lies that she still has to work under a doctor, according to Michael's.
That's just getting the
Stipulation.
doctor's orders. If she's working for the health
I
department,
think
we
it said
can get-
Dr. Lucio right now is doing it.
Yeah, that's what he said it was
Yeah.
currently.
Well, yeah, but I don't think there's an agreement there. I mean, I think it's just, he said he'd do it, and
Should we get Michael and
just put it in there and we'll talk to him.
and
again.
Christy over here to talk about? I mean, I just think if you're going to spend that much money, then I think you ought to look at. I mean, you need a double bang out of it. And,
Get Christy and Michael both in here and let's see if it'll work. And if it won't work, they might be able to tell us no. that's
and
just
you've
not
been to the
gonna
health department. You guys have all been over to the health department, and they don't have enough nurses to deal with the caseload they have. I mean, it's every time I'm over there, there's people
Yeah.
waiting, and the rooms are full. It's not like they're waiting because nobody's there. I mean, the rooms are full and they're waiting, and they do a outstanding job.
I mean, I still struggle with, a nurse being over there for 20 hours
I
a
know.
week twiddling her thumbs, so.
But if that's what the contract requirement is, then
And-
the option is walk away from the contract. But I think that's necessary to do
have
the
our
primary mission.
certification.
Yeah.
I mean, even if we hire somebody through the health department, I mean, I don't know how we're gonna work weekend hours like he was talking about. I just don't see that happening.
I did actually talk to Michael this morning, and he had said that he has couple part-time retired nurses that he was talking to, and I said, well, you're better off talking to that doctor and see if, you know, because they're gonna have to take the order from that doctor.
And they're gonna have to keep their license current.
Yeah. So, maybe we get them both here and set them at the table and let them help us decide, because if we can find somebody, my biggest fear was we wouldn't be able to find anybody to work for this doctor here, you know, given the orders.
Sure.
Let's just get them here and talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much that way on all the positions right now. 'Cause
What else-
like I
what
said,
else
I
we
did
got?
write down some stuff, and you know, everybody always wants
3 more.
another person.
We're getting close.
Okay.
County clerk.
Just so you guys know, we did sit down and talk to Mr. Forsmeyer yesterday, I think, yes.
Who's we?
We did invite him in to
Yeah.
talk to you guys, and.
You didn't want to? Then he needs to come in and talk to the commission. Now, he can do it today, or tomorrow, or the next day, or he can do it after the new year starts and he's actually the clerk, but at some point he's gotta come in and talk.
That's what we told him. We
Yeah.
tried to get him to come yesterday.
So what's he
morning.
want?
The way I understand, he's hired one lady, and do I say money, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know who he hires, so you can say money.
Okay, 30,000
Mhm.
mark, and he does wanna hire another lady at the same dollar threshold.
So you got that much in his budget?
Yes.
Well,
For next year, he'll have that much in his
It
budget.
depends if you guys.
If we give him the same amount.
If you give him the same amount.
Here's
yeah.
the deal. The positions that are open go down to the starting pay. That's the way we've done it all the times before.
You guys want some coffee?
That's
I'm
why we
good.
gotta do it. We gotta treat
Same
this the
coffee.
same way.
Jeff,
Um,
coffee?
Yeah, I'll take a little touch up. I still wanna look at, the IT position that we moved over there and putting that back under IT.
That's the next department to talk about, so.
Well, we had that position and it got swapped back over there. And I'd just soon see it moved back over to IT and help Dale out. Cause that's already been discussed about him needing somebody to help, and he had it before, but it wasn't an actual IT person. So we need to get an actual IT person in there. We've got the opportunity to.
And
fill
IT's
that.
not gonna be cheap.
It doesn't have to be the supercomputer nerd.
No, but they're just in such great demand. Cap Region, we're losing them.
You can get a kid that plays games all day afternoon.
I mean, they're being grabbed up. JCMG took one of
It
our.
doesn't have to be a
it's-
computer programmer. It can just be somebody that comes in, they set a desk. Dale's done that on my computer, spent half a day just waiting for stuff to download and stuff that you gotta sit there and hit enter. And it's very time consuming. It's a pain in the
Why
butt
aren't you
for
doing
him.
that? I can hit
I
enter.
don't know how to do
I
it.
know how to hit enter.
I don't. I'd hit it wrong. Not qualified for that kind of stuff.
Okay, well, we'll have Steve come in,
Try
tell
them.
him he
Yeah, it's
needs
good.
to
Yeah,
come
that's
talk
good.
to you guys.
Yeah.
What is the starting? Do you know right offhand? Because if we're gonna let him come in and start his people off at 30,000, there's somebody that lives right down below us that's gonna, well, hell, use that too. Upstairs, over across the lot.
Well, we've had that happen before, and because people had it in their salary but budget line, hire somebody mid-year, they can pay them whatever they want, whether they're qualified or not.
Well, then Coursemar should have done that beginning of the year. He should have waited till January 1, got rid of who he did no longer require services from, and then fill it. If you
So-
want to play that game.
I like the girls over there a lot, and they're very nice people. Clerk's office is a clerk's office. It's a clerical set of positions. Some people have a lot more experience in what they do. Don't get me wrong. Maybe there's value to experience, but it's a clerk's office. The people you're hiring in are clerks. You're not hiring in accountants. You're not hiring in lawyers. You're not hiring in nurses. You're not hiring in engineers. You're hiring in clerks. And I don't know what the starting salary for a clerk is, but if it's $21,000, the line will be out the door with applications.
23.7.
There are a ton of people in this community that would drop everything to take a 23/7 job for 8 hours a day and overtime during elections.
And check, because we did get rid of the Archer study for elected officials. I mean, this is the baseline that we were using, so whatever, I mean, you tell us. But I will have Steve come in. and
My
talk
vote's
to
gonna
you.
be to put a salary line in there at the 23.7. If he wants something different, doesn't agree with the Archer study, then we can discuss that. We've used Archer study as a basis. We've tried to be consistent with it. I think that's the biggest thing, is to be consistent across the offices and fair to everybody. It's gonna bounce around a little bit because they have different duties.
So that takes us
Um,
to IS.
So before we go there, I mean, I get the 23.7 and I get what Mark's saying, and so I'm a little cognizant of Steve coming in as a new clerk and needing to hire some people that he's comfortable with, and I know we helped you out, and
Well,
you
and-
brought your deputy
You
auditor.
have to realize too that 23,000 was what, 9 years ago. There probably is a little bit of adjustment that's needed to that minimum salary.
I'm telling you that for $23,000 and benefits, which we offer, that the line of people from the state that would come over here would be long, because Department of Revenue pays $18,000 a year for people who do the tax return things, and you have to pay for your insurance over there. I mean, they pay for it. They subsidize it. They don't pay 100%.
And just being from the financial end of it, it would be nice to have one person in his office that calculates taxes and definitely helps with payroll and things.
It would be nice to see an org
Those two.
chart and
Yeah.
know what
Yeah.
he's
He
proposing.
had talked to me, he was in about hiring an accountant.
And I think he may still want to do that, but I think he definitely wants he talked to us about somebody with a degree. So
Yeah.
whether he needs a degree, he definitely, in my mind, doesn't need an accountant over there. They will be bored to death, as far as that
Yeah.
goes.
Their position's more of a bookkeeper. I mean, there is a difference between a bookkeeper and a clerk, but
Yes.
I don't know that we need to take the jump to accountant. I don't know if that's necessary, but
I think he needs to come in.
yeah,
Okay.
I definitely think so.
And,
So that kind of leads into IS. I know Dale did not ask for additional help. I know the sheriff had brought it up. I know Jeff brought up the position in the clerk's office. So there wasn't a request from Dale for additional people, but if you guys want to talk about.
I could bring Dale in here, because we talked about the GIS thing and that, so maybe he can share his thoughts on that. So, or unless, whatever you want to do.
So let's just talk about that for a minute. I mean, so that'd be taking a spot out of the clerk's office and then adding it into IS.
It'd be taking one that was not there, that we put over there, back over here.
I think Dale needs to come up and he needs to talk to us and see what, if it's needed. I mean, I know Rich does a lot for us, contract services, and,
Well, we can eliminate the position from the clerk's office, because it was not there before. And then we can find out if Dale needs it, then we can give it to him. If he doesn't need it, we eliminate that position. That opens up some money for some of the other positions, or money for raises.
A lot of the duties that one was doing does belong under the county clerk, though. So we still have to address that as far as that goes.
I don't have enough history on it. I don't really know what was done prior. I mean, seems like to me if the clerk's office can operate with less people, that'd be great. But I just don't know, until Steve gets his feet wet, knows
What
what's
does
going
this
on.
person do?
There's a lot of the processing by statute. They have to process the accounts payable, have to be here to process payroll. It may sound like it depends. We're gonna get a new system come July of next year, so things are gonna be changing as far as who does what, as far as the accounts payable goes. and even as far as time entry goes for payroll. So it's kind of hard, I can tell you what we're doing now, but it will all change shortly, so.
We hope to push some of that data entry off to the actual departments.
And
That's
that's-
currently being done centrally.
Yeah, and that person was doing a lot of the data entry of some of that, so that would be at the county court, so.
But they still are the ones that actually issue, it's called the issuing of a warrant, but they're actually issuing the checks. So they're the ones that actually physically enter or print the checks. They actually process once everything's entered. They're the ones that kind of tell the system, yes, go
Print.
forward.
Print. No approval waiting for them, but they do the process.
So depending on these two employees that he's talking about bringing in, maybe if he brings in, I don't know. He just needs to call.
Mhm.
And, and of course, he doesn't really know yet because,
Yeah.
but we'll get, I'll bring him up so we can talk to you.
So final department is building maintenance, and I know we kind of threw out park stuff. I know that was just kind of, I think, in the heat of the moment talking about it, but he definitely requested some reorganization within his department.
I think we requested it of him to get a flow chart. I think they should be set up kind of the same way we tried to set the public works up. We got a maintenance 1, a maintenance 2, a maintenance 3.
Well,
And he
and
kind
we
of has given us that.
also talked about making some of them janitorial versus
Yeah,
maintenance.
janitorial, and which would
So-
even be just somebody that comes in and pushes a broom,
Right.
And
not
I'll-
changing light
So
bulbs.
that's a department that's underneath the commission. So we have control. You guys have control over that department. My suggestion would be, I think putting parks in makes sense. I think reorganizing that department makes some sense. I think the solution would be to put in a number. I don't care what number you put in the budget, just as a placeholder, and then sit down with Greg and make him come up with the whole plan on how to operate the office.
And if I,
Because until you agree to the plan, you don't have to spend a dime.
and as far as park goes, I think that approach is not the good thing. I mean, what we're doing here is we're fixing the department that has the wrong person in that position and adding another one because it belongs to this person in that position.
Excuse me.
So I don't get that
Yeah,
solution.
I after
Yeah, Greg,
thinking about it.
it's not, he said that's really
What
not
are
a
you
fit.
doing out there at Parks and Rec? They're doing maintenance, just same thing, do they? They
Yeah.
cut the grass, they do some cleaning. It's the same thing, it makes perfect
They do
sense
some
to go over there.
light construction maintenance.
We're
light
creating an
construction.
FT position when the problem is we've got the wrong person in the FT
We
position.
probably are creating a FT position that's gonna get paid less than what the other full-time position that was doing it part-time out there gets paid for half his time.
What does that person do though if he's not doing
What's he
parks?
gonna
That's why we were putting them under building maintenance, because they could
Yeah,
come in and do cleaning. They could
Right.
do maintenance on their facilities, particularly in the wintertime.
I think what they're saying is what this is that's a public works employee gonna do.
So,
We're
now,
still gonna be
so,
paying
so that's a
his salary.
hang on. That's a separate discussion. You can't get those two together, and I'll tell you the reason you can't get those two together, because they're not together.
Well, they're not. But
You
you're
guys
also-
have to talk to Larry and Larry, and you have to figure out what the heck's going on over there. And because it's an individual we're talking about and not a general class of position, you need to do it with the door shut in a closed session. And we had a little bit of that discussion in here the other day. We did not have as in-depth a discussion on that as we need to have. And that needs to be a component of the structure of their office. That needs to be a component of how you guys do any kind of pay adjustments, merit adjustments. All that needs to be done before you let them do any merit adjustment or anything like that. You need to make a decision on how that department's going to run. I love Larry and Larry to death. They make us look so good. I mean, you want to know why people love the county? No offense. It's because the Public Works Department does just a phenomenal job. That's why people love the county. But they've also been there a long time, and they're very set in the way they do things, and change is difficult. The longer you've been doing something, the harder change is. Right, Debbie? And she's had to deal with it with me, and now she's going to deal with it with you. I mean, every time there's a new commission, she has to deal with some change. By and large, those guys never deal with change because we by and large leave them alone. This may be a time to have a sit down and talk about change.
I think my other concern is that Public Works has the resources available to send someone out to help or do whatever. Is it more than one person's time that it takes to handle the parks? I mean, is it more than one full-time position during those months when grass cutting is twice a
Could
week
they do a
instead
maintenance
of-
worker one
Use
doing
them to
that?
do
So my concern is that if maintenance is already overworked, are we pushing off something onto them and giving him one person to fix it that might be more than a one person?
So park season starts, give or take, March or April. I think these are discussions. Parks has to be GR. It cannot be road and bridge
Right.
from a funding
I-
perspective. I think what you need, and I hate saying this, but this is one of those ones where you kick the can down the road a little bit. I hate saying that, but you put some money in the budget, and then after you get the budget approved, because you got that 3 months to figure out how to do it all right, and we don't have the time to do that between now and approving the budget, get a plan set up. I think there's a lot of merit to bringing it into maintenance. It makes sense inside of maintenance to me. As an outsider, it would make sense to me that maintenance, because it's facilities, it's grounds. And that's what maintenance does, is facilities and grounds. I mean, it's kind of always thought of. And I never understood why Parks and Rec was over there, except for the fact that that's just kind of where we stuck it sometime in the past.
it. Years ago, that's all we had.
And we have 4
They took on
parks.
a lot of stuff.
4.
We have 4 parks.
And some other areas that we have.
We basically,
Yeah.
we basically have 4. We have
Didn't even
basically
know
have
we had,
4
yeah.
parks, and if you count the Osage City location, if we ever actually do something substantive with it, we have 5 parks. And during the peak season, basically that consists of mowing. Most of those parks are very small. Only one of them is big. County Park's pretty decent size. The other ones are all small. They're really small. They're your yard size. I don't know if you've gone out and looked at them, but Thanen Park is very small. Brooks Park's very small. You know, we have whatever we want to call the lake. Runs Lake. I don't know what we call that. I don't know if that's a park or I don't know where. I think that's
I'm
a
not sure they're currently
don't do
going
anything there.
That's a wetland.
that's a position in flux because we're letting the river or the creek take its natural course back. County Park's a big park, but really, of all the parks, it's the least maintenance required park because really all you have to really do out there is mow it and empty the trash.
And we
the
got bathrooms,
and that's
trash pickup.
and that's exactly what maintenance does. Everything you're adding is what maintenance does. They mow the lawn, they clean trash cans, they clean bathrooms, they do some painting when you have to do a little painting. They do a little light construction when there's minimal construction to be done. That's what you do at a park. The only thing that the parks do that's not done by maintenance currently, only thing, is taking reservations. It seems like a match to me.
When you ask what they're gonna do, what's the part-timer gonna do if we fill it with a full-time position over in maintenance? They were asking us for a full-time position there anyway, so what's he gonna do if we gave them the position in Public Works? We was either gonna give Public Works a full-time position, or we was gonna put it in maintenance.
There was a-
Yes, he was asking for a full-timer for the parks,
Who was?
Public
Road Bridge?
Works.
No, they weren't. They wanted us to put that gentleman in parks, in the budget wise.
So take it out of theirs and put it into Public Works, or into
Well, they were only
parks?
given, what, 8 or 10 months a year, they wanted it to come out of parks, for the rest of the year, they wanted it to come out of their budget.
Where's
They
theirs
weren't
at?
asking.
Their
for a
projection
full-time
was the
position.
29,495,
Yeah, for those number of months.
which I think was the person that's currently cutting grass's salary for the number of hours that he was spending.
Which would be a full-time employee.
They
With
wanted to hire a
just about with
full-time
benefits and everything.
I'll cut grass.
to share with Road and Bridge, Parks and Rec.
And so then it led to
Equipment operator
into a
one.
conversation, and at that point, they said, well, we would share a full-time position with you, and they could mow for 9 months and plow snow for the other.
But then they'd still have the position that they
Right.
have cutting it now.
Right.
And you're,
Yeah.
that's why you're,
I'm having a hard time, yeah.
but that's why you're asking me what they're gonna do. What would they do if we did either one of them, if we changed to either one? Guess we lost each other.
Yeah, I'm lost.
Well, I mean, ideally, I thought that was a good fit too. But I know Greg's not really interested in that, and that's really not his decision. But at the same time, it's just more for him to do, and so. I mean, I'm kind of thinking that maybe we take we outsource some of that. Maybe we look at having somebody mow all our properties and just see. It's not subject to prevailing wage laws because it's maintenance, and so anyway, I think we could get it done fairly reasonably, and then that would maybe free up some time for Greg to use his people to do more maintenance. So, but that still doesn't fix the issue out at Public Works.
The issue of Public Works, you need to have a closed door meeting to talk about.
So I mean, if it costs it's $29,000 what they have in salaries, but they don't have any equipment and anything else that they're figuring into it. So it's probably $40,000 that their actual cost is. But
And if you're talking to another person, when you add in all those benefits and stuff, contract may be the way to go as far as that.
so
There's no reason why we can't look at seeing if we can get somebody to bid it out and do it cheaper. I'm not opposed to that at all. We looked at that a while back. I don't see it happening, but there's nothing wrong with looking at that and doing it that way. I have no problem at all looking at subcontracting or.
I think you need to get the players in the room and have a discussion on how you
So,
go about it.
yeah,
And
we can
the
kick
players
this
are
around all day.
maintenance, the players Parks and Rec. The players Road and Bridge, and then you guys. You just get everybody in the room and figure. We gotta figure out a way to solve this problem because it's.
But if Greg's just fighting it because he doesn't want to mess with it, I'm sorry.
That's not the way the job
Yeah,
works.
that's too bad. I know there's certain department doesn't really like doing animal control, and he'd love to get rid of that, but he still does that.
But you got to realize too that Greg takes it upon himself to come in here all the time, and another discussion we're going to have is that what is an emergency that Greg needs to come in here, because Greg comes in for everything. I mean, if the sheriff calls and he can't get a door open, Greg comes in. Well, you know what? I told Greg, I said, don't come in for that. You can't get parts. You can't get it fixed. They're going to have to figure out how to open the door manually and close it, because that is not an emergency. And he's dealing with everything from all these different departments, and he's in here at all times of the night
It's
and
'cause
whatever.
Everybody assumes their issue's an emergency.
Yeah, and it's not. And so, I understand why Greg says, well, I'll get to it when I get to it, because everybody thinks that, hey, I got a light out. I want you here. Come get over here and fix this. Well, it don't happen that way. Now, does he need to probably prioritize some of that stuff a little bit better? Yeah. But at the same time,
But he is, and I will, and I like Greg, and I think he does a good job. Part of the problem is, and I agree with you, the prioritization needs to occur. So, Marvin says, I got a light out. Okay, well, we'll get to it this week. Got a lot of stuff going on. Judge Beadham calls over, I got a light out. We'll get to it this week. I got a problem. Somebody else calls, I got a light out. We'll get to it this week. And that person goes, Jeff, I can't believe you're letting this happen. I've had a light out for a day. My people can't work. What the heck are you doing? And Jeff picks the phone up, no offense to Jeff, and calls Greg and says, hey, Greg, there's a light out at wherever. You got to get that fixed. I'm getting complaints about it. So Greg stops everything, runs over and fixes the light. Well, then Marvin goes, well, my light burned out before his light. He calls you. What the hell is you? I have a light I got to get fixed. And the next thing you know, all Greg can do is run from emergency to emergency because the commission, will jump in and say, I don't want the phone calls. Fix it now. And that is our prerogative. Don't get me wrong. But, if you're going to let your maintenance guy do things on his own priority and his own scheduling, then we kind of have to step out and let him do his things on his own priorities on scheduling, unless it's something big. When it's a big deal, it's a different ballgame. But I agree. And I've had the calls about light switch. I've had the calls about blinds.
We've
I've
had
had the calls
dripping
about
faucets.
wind. I mean,
We've had things, but I've never said, Greg, go fix it right now.
I'm not saying. I'm
I've
just
said, what's the deal with this? They
But-
have,
But if I call Greg,
Called me and
if
asked
I
me
call
about it.
Greg and say, what, you know, I've had two people say something about the dripping faucet. Greg doesn't hear Mark saying, I got two people who called about dripping faucet. He hears his boss saying, fix the dripping faucet. And I don't blame him for that because we are his boss.
Mhm.
He reports to exactly 3 people. And if, you know, as the way the commission works, if 2 of them are unhappy, it's not a good place to be.
Right.
So the best thing you do is keep all 3 happy.
That's a full-time job.
And it's tough. And you know what it's like.
Yeah. Whatever.
you know, all you do is keep 2 happy. Oh, I got 2. Screw you, Jeff.
And, and
I love you, Debbie.
and I'll tell you, I'm as bad as anybody about doing that. I like to think I try to not do the little stuff. And I really do when I tell him, hey, there's a drippy faucet. I really don't care if he fixes it today, tomorrow, the next week. I don't really care.
Just put
But
it
I
on
know
the
that
list.
he hears that's something that my boss has noticed and has a priority to. And there's nothing you can do about that except for to tell him, look, as long as you have a plan and you have a prioritization schedule, we're not going to get on you as long as stuff gets fixed in an appropriate time.
Right.
If all the lights go out, that's probably a priority.
Well, and you're talking about him coming in at the drop of a hat. And I've talked about what there needs to be an assistant.
Yeah.
And that can be somebody that carries a pager, has a pager. I don't think any of the janitors or maintenance guys we have right now, they'd rather be janitors because that's just what they want to do. They don't want to have a pager. They don't want to come in on weekends. They do their 3 to 11 and then they can, go do whatever. Because I think that is part of it. When he goes on vacation or anything, I think it's hard for him to find somebody to pass that.
And I definitely think that it's a possibility if you change the titles, that you make a requirement that they each take an on-call weekend or, they
Or-
share some of that responsibility.
Or if you dangle a little bit extra money out there, somebody may stop.
If you have to come in, you're going to get comp time. Don't make it to where you're doing it and it just screws up your weekend every time. I understand that.
But if you knew in advance too that, this is my weekend to be
Yeah.
on call, it makes life a little easier than constantly not being able to schedule anything because you're always here.
Well, let's get Greg in here and talk about that stuff too. Then we'll get a workflow chart together. I think
And I-
we talked about that before.
I think that will serve you guys well in the long run.
All right.
And it'll give you cover when somebody calls.
That's it, and we've pretty much said everyone needs to come in and talk.
So what day is next weekend?
Oh, he's out the rest of the year.
Would you want me here?
No.
I don't think you want me here for those. I think those are discussions on how you go forward. So do it the week I'm gone. Do it the first week of January.
If there's some input we need, we can shoot you an email and say, hey,
Yeah.
we don't remember this.
You're now talking about long-term structuring. That's not my job anymore. I don't mean it in a bad sense. It's not my job anymore because, it's like this budget. There's a reason that we provide that the budget can't be approved before December 31. There's a reason for that. It's not because we don't know what the dollar amounts are. It's because it's your budget. It's not my budget. And it would be wrong for me to vote on a budget that, the next day I get to go, have good luck, guys.
So what do we have
Well,
on
we're meeting
January
There's a
6th?
23rd. There's a January 23rd meeting already scheduled.
Yep.
About January 6th. I don't think you want to wait till January 23rd, do you?
December 23rd.
No.
There's a December 23rd meeting already scheduled.
There's a schedule. I can fill that up with whoever.
AR
can make it.
review, you could throw a couple things on that and probably address some of your issues.
No, we have one that day.
Yeah.
That's
There's
the only
nothing on
one.
That's the only one left the rest of the year.
And then, we can have another one the next week or 29th?
Well, I don't have anything that whole next week.
29th? Why not? You don't have anything?
I don't know, but you know what? I got stuff the week
Everybody's filling
but I got stuff the week after that. How on earth could I have something the week after that?
So I don't care. I mean, we can do it 23rd, or we can do it. What do we have on January 3rd or January 6th? Just got an abatement hearing. Looks like.
I don't even have anything on there. Did that just come? Do we have an agenda that day?
Yeah, January 6th.
Well, I would like to come to you with carry forward balances, everything then. If if we can,
Some of the other ones on the 23rd.
yeah, we're gonna schedule as many on the 23rd as I can get here. I know Greg won't be here. I don't think. Maybe quite a few people that won't be here because of vacations. Is there any option with the 29th week to the first, to the second with anybody?
Just tell me when to be here. I think
I can do,
That week?
I can do the 29th.
if you get it scheduled down, I'll work around it.
Sam?
I think so, yeah.
29th,
Once I get
Monday?
through Christmas, it's,
It's a little easier after Christmas.
yeah.
Okay.
Because we're gonna have to have Greg, Public Works, prosecutor,
Assessor.
Yeah.
assessor,
What?
23rd, you better.
I can't.
clerk.
What?
We have accounts payable and payroll due on the 23rd.
Sweet.
Then why do we have a commission meeting set
You have
that
to
day?
approve the accounts
Accounts
payable.
Yeah, so I really, no.
Yeah, I would rather try and schedule everybody the 29th, maybe.
And that's
That's far
after
enough out.
Christmas, yeah.
Hey, just for the record, I'm not voting on your accounts payables protest.
Okay.
Be here, will you?
All I need to do is
So hurry up and submit some stuff.
Yeah.
I did have a meeting last week. Did I
Yeah,
already
if
submit
we
that
turn
one?
in a bill.
I didn't submit it, did I?
Man.
Y'all do
Okay,
it?
I'm sorry, thank you.
Kill myself.
Yeah,
There's no way.
yeah, there's no way.
We're getting punch drunk up here.
Yeah, because without.
I think it's just because I gotta go to the bathroom too bad.
All right, 29th, we'll schedule most of it, hopefully, and then we're looking at the 6th again, too, to talk. I'll schedule both of those, so at least we got some placeholders on the 6th. I guess. And I have to have
Shoot,
the
I will have one on
article-
there.
or the budget to the paper on the 23rd, so that'll go over there. We usually don't have that many people coming to get a copy of the budget, but I'll give them.
We
a
also put it
copy
on
of
our
the
website.
spreadsheet. Yeah, we did last.
We need to make sure to do that. I mean,
As
that's-
far as the budget, I understand the positions and what you agreed to, but as far as salaries on everybody else, do you want me to leave it at current? Or do you want me to put the 2% in there?
I think you leave it at current. If you put anything else in, you guys are gonna have to explain why you changed it.
I agree.
Okay.
Good enough for me. I still don't remember.
Been
that one.
burned.
Yeah.
Don't want you guys to make the mistakes I made.
I bow to your,
It's no fun when the room lines up with people yelling at you.
I
It's
bow to
no fun.
your experience.
And Mark, I can't say it when the room was full of people, but I will miss you. I remember the first day you sat at my chair and you said, we're gonna change this, this, and this, and I thought, oh my God, this is gonna be a long.
She was
4
having a heart
years.
attack. You were telling her you changed something.
But a lot of the changes have worked out. You weren't changing just to be changing, you had a reason, so.
Yeah, I tell you,
will miss you.
the first thing I ever told Debbie is I'm going to ask lots of questions because I don't
I'm
know
gonna-
lots
I'm
of
gonna
stuff.
ask lots of
I'm going to ask lots of questions.
And you two
And-
are,
And just about any answer is a pretty good answer, as long as it's not because
That's
we've
how
always
we
done
always
it
do
that
it.
way.
That got me no points.
Have you ever heard that joke about? I mean, it's not a joke.
Cannot
It's about,
stand that.
it's about the monkeys and the banana. There's a room full of monkeys, so they put a ladder in there with bananas up at the top of it. So anytime a monkey climb up that ladder, they would spray the other monkeys down with the hose. Well, anytime a monkey would try to climb that ladder, the other monkeys would beat shit out of it. Well, then they would put a new monkey in there. Well, that monkey's first thing he's gonna do is try to go up there and get that
You are
banana.
live, don't forget
So
Yeah,
that's
we're-
all right. I already said after I said that first word, I realized I was still on.
So anyway,
So the second one, they beat him up. He doesn't even know why they're beating him up. But then they start circling them out. They put new ones in there, and they take the ones that were in there that knew why they beat him up out. So you get to the end. If you would ask that monkey, well, why do y'all beat him up before he climbs that ladder? Nobody knows. That's just what they've always done.
yep.
Yeah, that did not give me any points for the monkey.
I just wanted to tell the joke about the monkey and the banana.
And it's a very good. I'm going to use that. You got a
So-
sec? Yeah. Come on back.
yeah.
I knew this would only take us 15 minutes to discuss.
Yeah, you told me 15 minutes.
I didn't know we was going to talk about all the other positions. I simply wanted to say, what do we foresee? And we never really did say what we foresee even for the pay raises.
Well, I think we have the carry forwards in there and what they're gonna be.
I
So
know, but
don't
we didn't
think
talk
it's-
about what we're going to do. I would really like to have had that taken care of now, saying,
I know.
here's what I want to do. I want to do 1% COLA and $750 per full-time employee or 2% and 500. I don't think we are going to be able to do the 2% plus 1,000. That's a chunk.
It's already in there. I would, personally, I'd rather see that than FTs.
What we're going to do next year? I mean, then we'll have.
But you add those FTs, what are we gonna do too? I don't
Oh, I
think you
know.
can do both in the same year. I don't think you can give a good raise and add FTs. But
I think
guess
we
I'll
can
give it a shot.
we can look at each one individually and see if he needs them. Oh shit. Motion to adjourn or stand in recess?
I'll first.
I guess we need to go. Let me get Chris real quick.
Stay in recess.
Yeah, me and Jeff voted, so.
Wait. I'll make
You
a
and Jeff
motion
voted?
stand. I'll make a motion to stand in recess until
Second.
4:30.
All those in favor say aye.
There we go.
Okay.
That's official, right?
Yep.